I've been living with the help of a home ICU setup for the past 2 years. It's not exactly glamorous, but it's what keeps me alive. My room is filled with equipment that runs around the clock, a ventilator, feeding pumps, monitor machines, and several other devices that quietly hum 24 hours a day. As you can imagine, all of that equipment depends on one very important thing: a steady and uninterrupted power supply. Our house does have a backup battery system installed. In an emergency, it can keep everything running for about 8 hours. That backup has saved us a few times during bad storms or short outages. But none of us were prepared for the kind of storm that arrived when our neighborhood elected a new HOA president. Her name was Karen. Karen moved into our neighborhood about 6 months ago, and almost immediately she decided she was destined to rule over our quiet suburban street. At first, it was a typical HOA nonsense, walking around measuring grass height, complaining about decorative lawn gnomes, and sending out passive-aggressive newsletters about community standards. From the very beginning, my family had informed the HOA board about my medical condition. We didn't want any misunderstandings. We provided full documentation, and my nurse even explained to them that I depended on continuous electrical power to survive. The board members all nodded and seemed sympathetic. Or, at least, that's what we believed at the time. The real trouble started last Tuesday. My dad had just finished mowing the lawn and left the lawnmower near the edge of our driveway while he went inside to shower. He planned to put away afterward. It had barely been sitting there for 20 minutes when there was a knock at our door. When my mom answered it, Karen was standing there with her clipboard like a parking officer. She pointed one perfectly manicured finger toward the mower and announced that it violated the neighborhood's aesthetic standards. My mom apologized politely and explained that my dad had only stepped inside for a few minutes and would move it shortly. Karen wasn't interested in explanations. "Rules are rules," she said, her tone dripping with condescension. "This is already your second warning this month. The first was when your trash bins were visible from the street for an extra hour." My mom didn't want to escalate things, so she simply nodded and closed the door. When she told my dad what happened, they both sighed and brushed it off as another pointless Karen power trip. Unfortunately, we were very wrong. That was only the beginning. The next day, a formal violation notice arrived in the mail along with a fine. The reason listed was unapproved exterior modifications. We were completely confused. We hadn't changed anything about our house. My dad called Karen to ask what the violation referred to. She calmly informed him that the small medical alert sign near our front door, the one that helps paramedics in an emergency, was considered an unauthorized sign. My dad tried to explain why it was there. His voice was tight with frustration as he told her it was strictly for emergency responders. Karen's response was cold and matter-of-fact. "All signage must be approved by the architectural committee," she said. "Submit an application, and the board will consider it." It was unbelievable. The sign wasn't decorative. It was a safety precaution. At that point, we started feeling like we were being singled out. My parents decided the best option was to attend the next HOA meeting and address the issue directly. Surely the other board members would recognize how unreasonable this was. But before that meeting could even happen, things escalated far beyond what any of us expected. That Friday afternoon, the day before the meeting, I was resting in my room while my nurse, Sarah, monitored my vitals. My mom was in the kitchen making lunch. Suddenly, the steady hum of my ventilator stopped. Instead, it began beeping loudly. At the same time, my battery backup system activated, its alarm adding another frantic sound to the room. The power had gone out. Sarah rushed toward the electrical panel, while my mom ran into my room, panic written all over her face. "What happened?" she asked. Sarah checked the breaker and shook her head. "The main breaker's off," she said. "Not just inside the house. The main power line to the house has been shut down." My dad immediately ran outside to check the utility box near the side of our property. And that's when he saw her. Karen was standing there next to the open power box with a self-satisfied smirk on her face. In her hand was a heavy lock. My dad instantly lost his patience. "What did you do?" he shouted. Karen didn't even look nervous. "Your account has an outstanding balance of $150 for unpaid HOA fines," she said calmly, like a judge reading a sentence. "According to HOA bylaws, We have the authority to suspend services for delinquent accounts. That includes community-managed utilities. My dad stared at her in disbelief. Community-managed utilities? He said. This is the city's power line. You have absolutely no authority to shut this off. Karen ignored him and snapped the lock onto the box. Our bylaws are very clear, she replied. Once the fines are paid, your service will be restored. The audacity was unbelievable. She had cut power to a house where someone depended on life support equipment. Over a ridiculous HOA fine. My dad tried one last time to explain. My son is on a ventilator, he said. You are putting his life at risk. Karen simply shrugged. That's not the HOA's responsibility, she said. Perhaps you should have considered that before violating the rules. Then she turned and calmly walked back toward her perfectly manicured lawn, leaving my dad standing there stunned. Inside the house, Sarah was already calling both the power company and 911. Paramedics were dispatched as a precaution, and the power company said they were sending an emergency crew, but it could take up to an hour to arrive. Our backup battery still had about 7 hours of power left, but the tension in the house was unbearable. Every beat from my machines felt like a ticking clock. My dad, however, refused to just sit there waiting. He picked up his phone and called an old friend of his who owns a large event production company. After hearing the situation, his friend said only one thing: help is on the way. About 45 minutes later, a massive vehicle turned onto our quiet suburban street, but it wasn't a small utility truck. It was a gigantic industrial generator mounted on a semi-truck, the kind used to power entire music festivals. The truck was so large it nearly filled the entire street. It backed into our driveway with a thunderous roar, the diesel engine vibrating through the windows of every house nearby, including Karen's. She stormed outside immediately, furious. What is the meaning of this? She screamed. You can't park a commercial vehicle here. This is a residential neighborhood. 2 technicians jumped down from the truck and began unloading thick power cables. My dad calmly walked over to Karen. This, he said, gesturing toward the massive generator, is our new power source. Karen's mouth fell open. You can't do that, she yelled. The noise, the fumes. This violates HOA rules. I'm calling the police. My dad looked at her with icy calm. Go ahead, he said. And when they arrive, explain why you cut electricity to someone on life support. Explain why this truck had to be brought here. Then he added, actually, don't worry. They're already on their way. Right on cue, 2 police cars and a power company truck pulled up with flashing lights. Our quiet street suddenly looked like the scene of a major emergency. Neighbors began peeking out their windows to watch. The officers listened as my dad explained everything. Then they listened to Karen try to justify her actions using HOA bylaws. One of the officers walked over to the locked utility box. He turned to Karen. Ma'am, did you place this lock on a public power utility box? Yes, she said confidently. They were in violation. The officer's expression hardened. Ma'am, he said firmly, tamper with public utilities is a felony, and cutting power to a home where someone relies on medical equipment could also be considered reckless endangerment. Then he added the words Karen clearly never expected to hear. You're under arrest. The color drained from her face as the officer placed her in handcuffs. Her confident smirk disappeared instantly. The power company workers cut the lock off the utility box in less than 10 seconds and restored our electricity. Meanwhile, the generator crew began packing up their equipment. The lead technician gave my dad a thumbs up. Glad we could help, he said. Your friend said it was an emergency. Soon the massive generator truck rumbled away, leaving the street quiet again. The following day, the rest of the HOA board sent us a formal apology. Karen was immediately removed as president and was facing serious legal consequences. All the fines against our family were dismissed, and the board admitted her actions were completely unacceptable. We never saw Karen again. Rumor has it she sold her house and moved away almost overnight. These days our street is peaceful again, but the story of the day a giant generator rolled into the neighborhood has become something of a local legend. Sometimes when someone thinks they have all the power, the best thing you can do is show them what real power actually looks like.